eliminating the achievement gap, providing equal access and opportunity to resources, achieving racial equity. The Montgomery County Council is dedicated to these goals to improve the lives of all county residents. Council President Nancy Navarro is leading the discussion on racial equity. In January, she hosted a training session conducted by the Racial Equity Institute for more than 45 county leaders to proactively understand and address racial inequities facing our communities. In March, residents had the chance to voice their own ideas on how to eliminate racial disparities at a town hall meeting held in the Civic Building in downtown Silver Spring. No voice will be left out, including the youth. A racial equity forum was held for students specifically in April at Gaithersburg High School. In celebration of Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, we asked several Asian American youth to tell us how they experience racial inequity and their visions for a more racially equal society. According to the Urban Institute for Montgomery County, Asian American households have the second highest average income with $131,000 compared to $160,000 for white households. When it comes to college education, 81% of Asians have some college compared to 86 to 88% of whites and native-born people. Statistically, Asian Americans enjoy high rates of completing higher education, employment, income, and home ownership. This often leads to the model minority stereotype being applied to Asian Americans. This, in turn, can create unseen pressures on our young Asian population.
There's claims that Asians have privilege in America and in society, which is personally I disagree with, but I can see the reason behind it looking at academic statistics. And I think it's a very touchy subject that has a lot of complexity behind it, but I think it puts Asians at a difficult position, and when we're trying to talk about some of our issues or that we face, that we kind of feel like we're not allowed to talk about them because one, they might not be as difficult as other minorities might face, or two, because economically, statistically, we're more privileged.
As Asian American students, their accomplishments, and speaking for myself too, are often overlooked. It's not uncommon to hear, oh, he did well on that test because he's Asian, rather than because he works hard, because he gets his work done.
In America, we don't have many North Koreans. We only have 270, and I'm one of the 15 people in DC area. So if I do something very stupid or very bad thing, then it's very easy to spread word out in the community, and it affects all North Koreans.
Even though Asian Americans are considered highly successful by many measures, this does not mean they shouldn't fight for racial equity.
I think our county is making a lot of active attempts to achieve racial equity, but I think we still have a lot of work to do, a lot of groundwater work to do to ensure that no matter what background you come from, you have the same chance to be happy and successful here in Montgomery County.
I remember thinking about how our rights came about, and really it came from the Black movement and how they got their civil rights, and they really set the precedence for equality in all of America. And it's important for us to really recognize that as minorities, you really have to stand together, and even though we may all be facing different struggles, it doesn't mean that they're all entirely separate, and there's really connection between them, and that as minorities, we ought to just stand together.
So racial equality and equity does mean everybody. So it's not just Asian Americans advocating for Asian American issues. It's really just giving everyone the opportunity to perform well and succeed.
As our young students prepare to enter the workforce in the near future, they have plenty of ideas for our county lawmakers on how to achieve racial equity.
In education, we also think about having a curriculum that reflects the students' background and hiring a workforce that is reflective of the immense diversity that Montgomery County has.
Because the curriculum in Montgomery County, too, tends to be pretty Eurocentric, right? And this really leaves out and omits other cultures and doesn't allow every student to relate to the curriculum. So changing this curriculum will immediately benefit other students of other cultures besides this Eurocentric curriculum.
I think cultural inclusivity and sensitivity is always a good idea. For example, training for teachers or staff members to learn about other cultures or the complexities behind racial equity.
Growing up in Montgomery County, these students are grateful their local government is making everyone feel like they have a place at the table.
I really appreciate to the government that actually thinks about those foreigners and ethnic groups and trying to provide it like an equal like opportunity for everyone.
One of the first things I say when I introduce myself is that I grew up in one of the most diverse communities in this nation. I think it's something that I personally pride myself on every day.
Growing up, I was lucky to be in Montgomery County where it's diverse, and I never felt isolated because of things I couldn't control, like my race.
Using these ideas brought forth by our residents, young and old, Council President Navarro will work with her council colleagues to introduce and enact equity policy legislation this fall.